Good evening. Thanks for joining us on India Business Hour. I'm Shereen Bhan. The headlines we're tracking for you tonight: with more than a dozen deals worth $1.3 billion awaiting approval, the Competition Commission seeks legal opinion to waive a rule that mandates a minimum quorum of 3 members. Only 2 members are currently at CCI, with one doubling up as the acting chairperson, whose tenure has been extended till further orders. Maruti Suzuki reports a robust operational performance in the third quarter on the back of lower input and employee costs. Margins come in above 9% for the second consecutive quarter. The company says that pending customer orders stood at over 3.6 lakhs at the end of Q3, a third of them for newly launched models. Just over a week to go for the union budget. Ballooning interest payments pose a serious fiscal challenge. A CNBC-TV18 analysis shows interest payments in FY23 have risen by nearly 40% to more than 9 lakh crore rupees. This amounts to 3.4% of revised nominal GDP. The budget could widen the base for Sukanya Samriddhi scheme and offer health insurance to the uncovered. Sources say there could be some stops for senior citizens as well. This is the last full budget before the general elections in 2024. The World Health Organization releases an urgent call to action to protect children from contaminated medicines on the back of cough syrup-related deaths in at least 7 countries in the last few months. The UN agency advises countries and regulators to detect and remove substandard products from circulation, asks manufacturers to purchase from qualified and bona fide suppliers only. After chasing Google for years in the artificial intelligence race, Microsoft is hoping to leap forward, announces multi-billion-dollar investments into the company that developed ChatGPT. Microsoft could use the AI platform to mount a serious challenge to Google's search business. Several senior officials resigned or were sacked in Ukraine in what was the biggest leadership shake-up since the war. The deputy finance minister, the deputy head of President Zelensky's office, and 5 governors are among the senior officials to lose their jobs. Millet farmers in Maharashtra are banking on more support from the government and the upcoming budget. A special report up next. And the second part of our special series, UPI Generation. What are the best use cases behind this payment revolution? A special report up ahead. As always, let's start with the market action. The Sensex and the Nifty recovering from intraday lows, ending flat. Broader markets were under pressure, underperforming the blue chips. The Nifty mid-cap and the Nifty bank ended 0.25% in the red. Now, CNBC-TV18 has released 20 stocks to watch out for in 2023, and that list includes companies from auto, oil and gas, telecom, banks, healthcare, fintech, and more. These are not stock recommendations. These are stocks on our watch list. They could move up or down based on triggers, and of course we will detail those triggers and the list for you. That's coming up in a short while on CNBC TV18. Onto the currency market action. The rupee fell to 81.7 against the US dollar on the back of a rise in crude oil prices and forex outflows. However, a weak dollar against world currencies restricted the rupee's losses. 81.72 is where the dollar rupee closed for the day. In the commodity market, crude oil prices continue to inch higher. Brent crude was trading closer to $80 10 days ago, and now it's closer to $90 a barrel. Strong demand outlook from China continues to keep prices higher. Many brokerages are predicting oil prices could hit $100 in the near term. That's the crude market for you. But the top story this evening in a CNBC TV18 exclusive: more than a dozen M&A transactions worth $1.3 billion are in limbo due to the lack of quorum at the Competition Commission of India. The CCI currently has 2 members, with 1 member doubling up as the acting chairperson. In fact, the government has just extended the tenure of Sangeeta Verma as acting chairperson until further orders. However, the quorum needed at the CCI to clear deals is 3 members. Parikshit joins us now with more. Parikshit, what is the government's plan about filling the vacancies at the CCI, and where does this leave the regulator?
Well, the industry has flagged some alarming situations at the Competition Commission of India because since the retirement of A.K. Gupta, the last full-time chairperson, there has been no permanent appointment by the Ministry of Corporate Affairs. There are only 2 members against the requirement of 3 as a minimum quorum for approving high-value deals, and therefore there is no movement on any of the major deal files. There are at least 20 decisions which are pending. This relates to deals amounting to $1.3 billion. One of them is a $900 million deal which has already been cleared by regulators in 8 jurisdictions. They only need the approval of the CCI. So the government has now extended the tenure of Sangeeta Verma, which means that the status quo on quorum will continue. The CCI has also been very concerned because they have a timeline of giving approvals within 17 to 20 days. What they're now thinking of doing is writing to the Ministry of Corporate Affairs, asking them to waive off the quorum requirement using the doctrine of necessity, allowing the current 2 members in the CCI to clear all these proposals. A view has also been taken from the Attorney General, and we can expect some movement on this in the days to come. What the MC has also done, they have issued a circular inviting applications to fill the post of at least 3 members. Remember, the CCI, as per law, can have a maximum of 7 members, including the CCI chairperson. And for a quorum to decide on high-value deals, you need a minimum of 3 members. So this process of filling in positions of 3 members could take anything between 3 months to 5 months.
Parikshit, many thanks for joining us. We will, of course, be waiting to see what the competition regulator and the Ministry of Corporate Affairs decides to do. Auto giant Maruti Suzuki reporting a robust set of numbers for Q3, margins almost at 10%, which is 300 basis points higher on an annual basis and 40 basis points higher sequentially. This was aided by a sharp drop in raw material costs, which has declined to under 76% of total sales. Standalone revenue crossed 29,000 crore rupees, profit ahead of street expectations. The company said that pending consumer orders stood at over 3.6 lakhs. That's at the end of Q3, and a third of them were for newly launched models. So that's Maruti for you. Staying with auto, TVS Motors reporting a mixed bag for Q3 despite a 22% rise in profits. The auto major's revenues rose nearly 15%, higher than estimates. Margins were just above 10%, and that was below expectations. The company's board has declared an interim dividend of 5 rupees per share. Now, just 8 days to go for the union budget. The government is facing a fiscal challenge. Interest payments have ballooned in FY23 by nearly 40% to 9.4 lakh crore rupees. Sapna Das is here with the details. Sapna.
Well, the government's interest payments have actually ballooned over the last 2 years. Even on a higher nominal GDP base for this year, interest payments constitute 3.4% of the GDP. Just to understand the magnitude of this number, the government's interest payments are higher than what it aims to earn via corporate taxes, the target for which is 7 lakh crore for this financial year. Also, 35% of this year's budget has been financed by borrowings. As recently as 2 years ago, this was 20%. Given the trajectory over the last 2 years, post-COVID and now the fallout of the Ukraine conflict, the coming budget too is likely to pencil a sizable interest payment chunk, especially when government borrowings too will be somewhat higher next fiscal and interest rates have also gone up.
Right, Sapna, many thanks for joining us. And staying with the budget, this budget will be the last full budget before the 2024 general election. Sources say the budget may widen the base of the Sukanya Samriddhi scheme, which is a small savings scheme for the girl child. The finance minister may also announce a special health insurance policy for people who are not covered under the Ayushman Bharat health insurance scheme or under private health policies. The exemption threshold under interest income for senior citizens may also be hiked from 50,000 to up to 1 lakh rupees per annum. The defence industry has sought a higher capital outlay for defence procurement and higher R&D incentives in the upcoming budget. Let's listen in to industry's wish list.
My hope is the defence budget will show a real increase, which means after factoring in inflation, there will be real increase in the outlay for defence procurement. Defence procurement budgets do make adequate provision for R&D. And that is something which can be taken care of by Make One projects. We need more and more Make One projects.
We used to get an income tax benefit on R&D spends done in the companies, which has now been withdrawn since the year, I think a year before last, this was withdrawn. We could easily put that. This will not even ask for additional budget. All it is asking for an incentive for expenditure on R&D in defense, which should be maybe considered at 200% of the spend so that you can save on taxes.
Well, budget expectations ahead of the big day on the 1st of February. Now, the Indus Tower board met today to decide its next course of action after receiving no monthly instalment payment from Vodafone Idea. Indus Tower had allowed Vodafone Idea to clear past dues worth 7,000 crores by July this year. Indus Tower had said that they would take drastic measures if payments were not made. We are still awaiting clarity on what has transpired. Tech giant Microsoft has made its third investment into OpenAI, the company that developed ChatGPT. Microsoft had earlier made investments in ChatGPT in 2019 and 2021. While Microsoft has not revealed the exact amount, reports suggest it could be pumping in about $10 billion in a bid to challenge Google in the artificial intelligence and the search business. Days after Google's parent Alphabet announced that it is laying off 12,000 employees, CEO Sundar Pichai defended the decision, telling employees the move was taken to avoid, and I quote, much worse issues. In an internal meeting, Pichai said, and I quote again, if you don't act clearly and decisively and early, we can compound the problem and make it much worse. These are decisions I needed to make, end of quote. Twitter has been sued by its landlord for allegedly failing to pay rent for its headquarters in San Francisco. The company failed to pay $3.36 million in December and $3.4 million in January. It's not just San Francisco. The company is being sued by London's Crown Estate for allegedly failing to pay rent for its London headquarters. Now, the WHO has called for immediate action from regulators and government after a spate of child deaths linked to cough syrups. Ekta joins us now to explain to us what steps the World Health Organization has suggested. Ekta, what is the WHO's charter for action?
The World Health Organization has released an urgent call to action to countries to help prevent, detect and respond to incidents of substandard and falsified medical products. The statement by the WHO is after countries have reported several incidents over the past 4 months of over-the-counter cough syrups for children being either confirmed to be or suspected to be contaminated with high levels of substances diethylene glycol or ethylene glycol. The WHO has indicated there have been cases from at least 7 countries associated with more than 300 fatalities in 3 of these countries, most young children under the age of 5. WHO has issued 3 global medical alerts. Remember, 2 of them were to do with Indian companies. The first was in October 2022, with Made in Pharma being allegedly responsible for deaths of over 65 children in Gambia, and the second in January 2023, which is this month, for Marion Biotech, allegedly linked to deaths of over 15 children in Uzbekistan. The Indian government has given a clean chit to Made in Pharma, and the UP government has suspended Marion Biotech's license. Lastly, WHO calls on various stakeholders to take immediate and coordinated action. This includes asking regulators and the government to remove from circulation substandard medical products and manufacturers to purchase pharma-grade excipients from qualified and bona fide suppliers, conduct testing, keep records, amongst other measures.
Thanks very much, Ekta. A serious challenge that requires a proper investigation. Aviation regulator, the DGCA, has imposed another penalty of 10 lakh rupees on Air India, this time for 2 incidents that occurred on the Paris to Delhi flight on the 6th of December. One passenger was caught smoking in the lavatory and was not adhering to the crew's instructions. Another allegedly relieved himself on a vacant seat and blanket of a fellow female passenger. The DGCA says the penalty is because Air India did not report the incident to the regulator and delayed in referring the matter to its internal committee. And here's more on Air India. The latest in the Air India November 26 urination incident. The airline has issued a statement saying it has closed the investigation into this matter. It says the derostered crew have been cancelled and have returned on duty. But most importantly, Air India says it deems the license suspension of the commander excessive and will assist him with filing an appeal. Separately, 6 different cabin crew and pilot unions have written to the DGCA urging them to withdraw the harsh punishment and suspension of the pilot in command. The unions add that the accused passenger's polite and cooperative decorism was the very reason that the pilot and the cabin supervisor and the crew on board could not have branded him an unruly passenger. UPI has been one of the biggest generational changes that has swept India. The country's millennial and Gen Z population has lived through this transformation and been quick to get hooked onto the new trend. As part of CNBC-TV18's ongoing series, the UPI Generation, Radhika Das reports on the biggest use cases for the payment revolution.
Choice. It's one of the things that makes young India tick, but it's not just about choice in what to eat or wear or own. It's also about choice in how to pay for what you want. And that's where UPI, or Unified Payments Interface, has scored big. For India's millennials and Gen Z, the evolution of this choice has unfolded before their eyes. From having to carry cash, they moved to debit and credit cards, then to the ease of net banking. And now they have the choice to scan and pay using just their mobile phones. Experts say this choice has also molded the spending patterns of these two generations. A CNBC-TV18 poll of young Indians residing mainly in urban areas revealed these youngsters most often whip out their UPI apps when ordering food through food aggregator apps. 79% of them said this is their most employed use case. Physically buying food at restaurants and groceries at stores comes second at 72%, with online shopping a close third at 70%. Paying for cabs on aggregator apps like Ola and Uber rank fourth at 65%. But this popularity goes beyond just ease of payments. It's also about low transaction costs.
Since UPI has launched, people have now stopped using cards also. Majority people want to do it, scan it and pay. There is no deductions, first of all. Right. In the card payments, there are deductions. But we do majoritarily around 20% of the 20 to 25% sales through the online sales, online food aggregators. I am using UPI for my all transactions. I don't keep cash.
So what are the favorite apps?
For ordering my meal in the mess, in the canteen, and like whatever you use it is, like you tell online shopping, everything, I use GPay for that.
Normally for Zomato, Swiggy, Amazon, Uber, Ola and all these apps.
For literally everything, like college canteen, online shopping, Zomato, everything.
It's not just online stores and businesses that have seen a jump in business due to increased adoption of UPI. It has also changed the way brick-and-mortar consumer-facing entities operate, whether they're mom-and-pop stores or restaurants or clothing stores or even travel agents.
Making payments, the biggest challenge that we had was, which we kind of now don't realize because we're using it so much, is the change. And that expression that they are changed there now, that the shopkeeper either is running to the next shop to find change, or the person is struggling to give change. Or you could say the grocery store is giving you 5 candies instead of the change. Now, with UPI coming in and you are making this, so it doesn't matter whether it is the bill is ending with a 3 rupee or a 5 rupee or a 7 rupee.
The success of UPI in India has become a talking point for the government.
At a recent Google event, IT Minister Ashwini Vaishnaw said that the UPI platform is already being deployed in countries like Nepal, UAE, France and the UK. And India is also in talks with 30 other countries to expand the UPI footprint further. But this rapid adoption and explosive growth has brought with it its own set of challenges. I'm Radhika Udas and I get into all those details on the next edition of the UPI Generation right here on CNBC-TV18.
While the government's plan to focus on millets, from enhancing production to branding and promoting millet consumption both domestically and globally to post-harvest value addition. In keeping with this, the government also proposed to the UN that 2023 be declared the International Year of Millets, a proposal that has been accepted. Sante Gora reports that millet farmers in Maharashtra are banking on the government's intent for more support in Budget 2023.
27-year-old Gulab Khotade and her husband Dhavlu Khotade own and farm 7 acres of land in Winwell village in Maharashtra's Palghar region. Of these 7 acres, 1.5 acres is earmarked for finger millets or ragi. Last year, their field yielded 2.5 quintals of ragi, almost double the average. But the millet farmers in the area mainly use ragi for personal consumption. But the government's stated intent of bolstering ragi production and consumption has given the couple hope.
7 acre jaga hai.
We have 7 acres of land. We sow paddy and ragi in our fields. If the government helps us, we will sow more ragi.
जर सरकारची मदत राहते तर याहून पण जास्त आम्ही पिकवतो.
Khotade's neighbor Sunita Murga, who also grows finger millet on a portion of her land, says she is willing to increase land allocation to this crop if better infrastructure is provided.
जागा आमची 6 एकर आहे. पण पाऊस पडत नाही मग नागली माझी पिकत नाही.
We have 6 acre land, but if it doesn't rain, the ragi crop suffers. We depend on rainfall. If the government provides us better facilities, we can sow more ragi.
मग सरकार मला पाण्याचे सोय करील तर याच्या पुढे मी लागली पिकून जास्ती पण पिकली.
India was the highest producer of millets in 2020 and produced 41% of the world's millets. In 2020-21, it produced 17.96 million tons of millets, and it's this number that the government wants to increase. It has come up with a 5-year plan that spans various ministries and its foreign embassies and missions. Millet exports also account for just 1% of total millet production currently. To enhance this, the government plans to organize millet promotional activities in multiple countries like Australia, South Africa, Japan, Indonesia, and Belgium. But farmers and experts say a lot more will have to be done to incentivize millet sowing, and Budget 2023 could be a strong starting point for this.
Because farmers really, the kind of money that they make annually is extremely low. Stability in income is of paramount importance to them, and that's something that can encourage them to go for this crop. So if we have more procurement for millets and maybe also distribution under the PDS scheme is enhanced for millets, that can encourage farming for millets this year.
Measures to enhance yields are also the need of the hour, and the list of focus areas include
conservation of millet diversity in different agroclimatic zones of India. Second, developing cultivation practices for getting better yield in hilly regions, slopy lands, degraded soils.
The government has also approved a production-linked incentive scheme for millet-based products and expects this to increase consumption beyond subsistence farming. The government has kicked off the promotion and branding leg of its millet popularization plan from the beginning of this year. Different states and ministries have been allocated a specific month to organize various activities promoting millets. These states and ministries will organize fairs and exhibitions as part of this exercise. The government is also roping in the media, startups and the hotel industry to popularize millet consumption. And as per last year's budget announcement, pre- and post-harvest value addition of millets will be on the government's priority list this year. In Palghar with camera person Ajay Dabholkar, this is Santya for CNBC-TV18.
Tata Trust has appointed Siddharth Sharma as the CEO. Sharma has served as the financial advisor to former President Pranab Mukherjee and Ramnath Kovind. He subsequently joined the Tata Group and was the head of the sustainability portfolio. Aparna Uppaluri, who has worked with the Ford Foundation, has been appointed as the Chief Operating Officer of Tata Trust. This will be effective from the 1st of April 2023. Here's the latest in the Jet Airways resolution matter. Sources tell CNBC-TV18 that lenders have filed a plea in the NCLAT opposing the NCLT's Jan 13th order. The NCLT order said that the Jalan Kalrock Consortium has satisfied conditions precedent for the takeover of Jet Airways. Remember, lenders have been reiterating that JKC is yet to fulfill all conditions precedent. This edition of India Business Hour. Thanks so much for watching. Do stay tuned. News continues here on CNBC-TV18.